Welcome back to News Talk. It's decision day in Iowa, the 2016 presidential nomination process kicking off at long last today. The candidates spending the night and the early morning hours crisscrossing the state, hoping to win or at least exceed expectations in the first in the nation caucuses. Correspondent Lana Zach has the latest from Des Moines.
It sounds like you want to make a political revolution.
I am a better candidate, and thanks to you, I will be a better president, and I want you to know that.
This is it. Time is up for the 3 Democrats and the 11 Republicans running for president. Rob Sand will be administering a caucus in western Des Moines.
I think a lot of people are going to make that decision when they're listening to their neighbors.
In fact, on both the Republican and the Democratic side, the last Iowa poll found 5 points or less separating first and second place. And with about a third of voters still wavering in their support, campaigns can influence the results up to the last second.
I pray that God's will.
In their final day on the trail, Ted Cruz attended church.
If you can promise me that you'll run this country like a God-fearing Christian man and not a...
He said he prayed for Donald Trump and Marco Rubio, who made this appeal.
I'm asking you to caucus for me tomorrow because if I am the President of the United States, when I am the President of the United States, we will confront the challenges of our time.
Rubio fighting hard for an upset second-place finish or better.
Get out of bed and caucus.
And Donald Trump, long the man in the lead, gave his wife Melania the mic to close the deal in Iowa.
He will be unbelievable.
For Republicans, we'll expect to see those results pretty soon after 7 o'clock tonight. But for the Democrats, it can take a little bit longer since oftentimes those caucuses unfold like a game of Red Rover, with campaigns trying to sway the voters from non-competitive candidates over to their side. Lana Zach, ABC News, Des Moines.
Joining us now, reporter Elena Plott. She's the Buckley Fellow at National Review. Good to have you here. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
If you're into politics, and you and I are, it doesn't get a whole lot more exciting than this. We've had a months-long lead-up. We've had debates, polls ad nauseum, lots of coverage, intense interest. I mean, the ratings for the debates are off the charts compared to previous cycles. Now the voters finally get to have their say. And in Iowa, it's a kind of unique thing because the caucus is a real process where folks are in it for a while. It takes some hours out of the day to participate in the Iowa caucuses.
Right, and that's why retail politicking, ground games do matter so much in this state. And what makes the Republican race interesting this year is that right now we have a candidate leading in Donald Trump who has amassed most of his support there from fanfare, celebrity, his persona. So I think Iowa is important not just in determining who this nominee will be, but the future of the political process, I think, in the Republican Party. If Ted Cruz can't pull out a win here, it's essentially a signal that, you know, the ground games, those meticulous kind of door-to-door phone banking strategies might not be, you know, as needed as they have been in the past.
Ted Cruz would have loved it if the Iowa caucuses had been a week ago, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. His polling was much higher, you know, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But Donald Trump knows how to put an attack out there. And then you had people like Governor Terry Branstad rallying to his side, saying we want anybody but Cruz. It became an ABC movement, essentially. You had Huckabee, you had Santorum rallying to Trump's side, rather. So, and that's taken a dent on Cruz's numbers.
Assuming that Ted Cruz and Donald Trump are 1-2 or 2-1, will there be some attention paid to who emerges from the establishment lane? In other words, if the third place finisher in Iowa is, then it would almost have to be a Rubio or, I don't know, I haven't looked at the numbers that closely, Christie or Rubio or Kasich or what have you, finishing first in the establishment lane, even if it means third overall, will still get you some coverage, and therefore something you as the candidate could reasonably describe as momentum heading into New Hampshire and the next set of contests.
Right. So the Des Moines Register poll that came out on Saturday, I believe it was, which has been the most accurate predictor of who wins, who gets the top 3 in these caucuses. I think the last time it was wrong was 1988 in the order. Marco Rubio sits at a solid third at 15%. His closest trailer is Carson, I think at 10%. So we're really expecting Rubio to claim that establishment lane, as you put it. But Rubio's an interesting candidate in this race, right? Because I think he is praying, perhaps for the first time in his life, for Donald Trump to win this race. If Ted Cruz beats Donald Trump today, it becomes effectively, in my opinion, a two-man race between Trump and Cruz throughout this cycle. If Trump can win in Iowa, if Trump can win in New Hampshire, where he's expected to, and Rubio can place himself as the only viable alternative, that's exactly the place he wants to be in.
Is there some question mark among observers to this whole process as to whether the excitement that Donald Trump generates in terms of crowds and sucking all the oxygen out of the room, media coverage and all the rest, necessarily translates into bodies in these caucus locations? I mean, if he's bringing first-timers into the process, that's obviously great. That's what candidates and campaigns dream about. But you have to have sort of the fulfillment of the promise, and that is showing up at an unconventional kind of political gathering, right?
Right, so in a caucus state, that's particularly important, obviously. It's not New Hampshire where when you're picking up your kids, you can stop by your precinct to vote really quickly and go to the grocery store after. This takes commitment. And I think this is why, Donald Trump could be changing the game of strategy when it comes to electoral politics. If he can get bodies on the ground and he does pull out a victory, this will be a case study for political scientists for years going forward. But I think that's where Cruz's team thinks they have a lead. Data from their camp shows that they think more than any other team, they have identified voters who know exactly where to caucus.
Does Bernie Sanders wish the caucus had been a week ago?
Probably yes, but I think the momentum is still building for him. Right now, the Des Moines Register poll I cited shows him and Hillary Clinton at a dead heat within the margin of error. And I think Hillary Clinton's camp is skittish right now. She's brought her daughter Chelsea Clinton, her husband Bill Clinton on the trail. That's generating some movement for her. But 2008, they were very, very surprised when she came in third. And I think they're wondering if the same thing will happen this time. She has borrowed exactly Barack Obama's playbook for 2008, getting out in the rural areas. But then again, so is Bernie Sanders. So I think this will be the contest that will be closest than any of them.
8 days till New Hampshire. We'll spend the next week digesting and absorbing whatever the results from tonight are. So wins get amplified, losses get amplified, candidates who beat expectations, all those things get amplified because in this news cycle, we're going to be talking about whatever tonight's results are for a fair period of time.
And definitely, and after tonight, you're really going to see a winnowing of the field, I believe, especially with people like Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum. They know they have no chance in New Hampshire, where they favor more moderate establishment candidates. Iowa is where they've staked their candidacies. They've won these caucuses in the past. This is where the evangelical turnout is highest among just about any state. If they can't pull out a top 5 finish here, I think we'll see them dropping out. In
a few seconds that we have left, Martin O'Malley's last gasp as well?
Well, Martin O'Malley could be the kingmaker for Iowa. I think if he can't get 15% in a precinct, you're going to have to see his supporters choose. Do they go with Clinton? Do they go with Sanders? And I think Sanders benefits the most from that.
There could be a lot of burning up of phone lines in the late hours of tonight as that process unfolds, right?
Right. And Clinton's campaign is smart. They know this playbook, and they have caucus captains ready to say, if O'Malley is not getting 15%, move people to his camp quickly if it looks like it'll hurt Sanders.
Elena Plott of National Review with a preview of what we'll all be watching tonight and talking about tomorrow. Thanks very much for coming in. We'll talk with you again soon, I hope.
Thank you.
Back with the program note after this.